So let's get back to real time into today. Honestly, there's not a metric ton going on in the courts at the moment, but Judge Anzalone is doing sentencings, it looks like. So let's give that a look for a while.
Just needs to state what, Your Honor.
She pled to count 1 and count 2.
Okay.
And then if so where it says, and count 2 is a misdemeanor, so, but we don't need guidelines or anything. But so under final charges, it would say count 1 and count 2. The rest of it, there was a statement that the count 1 will be entered as a deferred judgment and to pay restitution in full. It just doesn't address the fact that if restitution is paid in full, count 1 will be dismissed and the conviction on count 2 of a misdemeanor would remain on her record.
Okay. So if payment is made in full, count 1 is dismissed completely. And then if payment is not made in full by the end of her probation term, count 1 stands and count 2 is dismissed?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So you are Jessica Moran, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So Ms. Moran, have you had an opportunity to read and review the pre-sentence report?
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you had an opportunity to discuss that with Mr. Amadeo?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you satisfied with Mr. Amadeo as your attorney and the advice that he has given you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. or Ms. McClure, do you wish to explain or challenge the accuracy or relevancy of any information in the pre-sentence report?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Amadeo?
No additions, deletions, or corrections, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Does the pre-sentence report disclose any prior convictions in which there exists any known constitutional defect?
No, Your Honor.
None, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right. The probation department has computed the minimum sentencing guidelines to be 0 to 9 months. Do you agree with that computation of guidelines, Ms. McClure?
I do.
All right. Do you agree with that as well, Mr. Amadeo?
I do, Your Honor.
All right. Before the court passes sentence, Ms. McClure, first, do we have anyone that wishes to speak today? And 2, do you have a statement?
I'll just make a brief statement if I could. I know there's this sentencing involves 3 different cases, and I know one of the individuals is here observing today. He did provide a written victim impact statement that was on behalf of the Kiwanis Club. And so I would ask the court to consider both victim impact statements. We received, this involves embezzlement from the Kiwanis Club of Morenci, the PTO of Morenci, as well as the Premier Bank where the defendant had previously worked. The Premier Bank is the only one who has not provided a victim impact statement. It's now a different bank, but we had been in contact with them and we had the information from them as to what the restitution was.
Hold on a second. Ms. Teskey, I'm going to mute you, or you got to mute yourself. Thank you.
And Judge, I agree with the restitution amounts as stated in the PSI. For the record, I have for Premier Bank was $39,000, to Kiwanis Club of Morenci was $5,055, and to Morenci Schools PTO was $2,764. As to the payment to Kiwanis Club, I have addresses for where that payment should be made. And I can provide that to the probation department after sentencing. As to the Kiwanis Club and the PTO in particular, both organizations expressed how they realize this isn't the most amount of money, but in small organizations in small towns, and I know the court knows this, it does affect them. Any amount of money that's taken unjustly, it affects the community as well as the organizations. And in particular, the PTO indicates that this was startup money for other needed fundraisers, and it prevented them from being able to gain any sort of interest on it while it was sitting in the bank. And I assume the same is for the Kiwanis. So I would just ask the court to consider that. And we did make the agreement that we made because Ms. Moran took accountability for this, and I do appreciate that. And I know the organizations appreciate that as well. And I hope that this is a wake-up call for her and she doesn't do something like this again. Otherwise, I would ask the court to follow the recommendation. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Mr. Amadeo.
Thank you, Judge. When I got this case, I immediately contacted Prosecutor McClure, who did a great job on the case. There was a lot of moving parts with this. I will say from day one, my client, and she's had no criminal history. She's a good mother, a good wife. She clearly made mistakes there, but she took accountability. She waived her prelim. She entered plea negotiations. I've lowered my fees to help pay for restitution. I think one of the reasons we got here, Your Honor, is because the prosecution was really concerned about getting the victims paid, and my client's working on that. We came to a resolution that is supported by the PSI. I asked that you follow it, put her on 3 years probation, let her correct things with the victim, let her make the payments that need to be made. I am asking her not to speak today, not out of disrespect for the court or the people, because there was a no contest plea, but I am expressing her thoughts. Thank you, Judge.
All right, very good. Thank you. And Ms. Moran, your attorney has advised you not to speak today because of the no contest plea. And is that your wish?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, very good.
And Judge, and I'm sorry for interrupting, but if the court has any control over this, I would ask that as restitution's paid, if Kiwanis and the PTO could be paid before Premier Bank. I know there's a larger amount, and I think the other two could be paid off a little bit quicker. So I would just ask that if the court has control over that.
I can order that. It's not a problem, Ms. Teskey, correct?
No, it's not, Your Honor. Who was to be paid first?
So I'm going to order first that the Morenci Schools PTO be paid.
Okay.
And then second, the Kiwanis Club of Morenci,
Okay.
and then Premier Bank.
And then Premier Bank. So we have 3 total.
Yes.
Okay.
Sentence in this case, the court has considered the seriousness of the offense, your history, the principle of proportionality, the statutory penalty, the cost of confinement, the sentencing guidelines, the report and recommendation of the probation department, as well as what has been set upon the record at this hearing, the criteria and reasons for the sentence, and the nature and gravity of the offense, the discipline appropriate to its commission, deterrence against repetition by you and by others, the potential for reformation, vindication for the law, and the protection of society. Sentence of the court that you will be placed on probation for a period of 3 years. During that term of probation, you will obey and comply with all the articles of your probation, not to violate any criminal laws, notify of any change of address or employment status, obey all court orders, not to use or have under your control a weapon of any type. Let's see, you must report to probation. Ms. Teskey, we're going to have a report next Tuesday morning at 8.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so you have to report to the probation department on the 3rd floor next Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. Comply with all written and verbal orders of the field agent. They can enter your house at any time for probation supervision issues or just to verify. You must submit to search of your person, property, vehicle, residence, computer without need of a warrant if they have reasonable cause to believe you have items that violate the conditions of your probation. You must report any police or contact or arrest, loss of employment, change of residence within 24 hours. You can't work in a position where you have direct control over or access to another individual's money. You must maintain employment of a minimum of 30 hours per week. You can also do community service work to help pay off some of the fines and costs, but not restitution. You must pay restitution in the total amount of $46,819. Restitution will be applied first to Morenci School PTO in the amount of $2,764, and the Kiwanis Club of Morenci second in the amount of $5,055. The balance of $39,000 will be paid to Premier Bank. You must execute a wage assignment to pay restitution if you're employed and miss 2 regularly scheduled payments. You must surrender all income tax returns, state and federal, and any bond that was posted. You must pay a crime victim assessment fee in the amount of $130, $30 supervision fee, $60 if we are required to put a tether on you, or court costs in the amount of $750. You must, let's see, surrender, oh, yeah, okay, and a $60 DNA fee. There is a $68 state cost for the felony and a $53 state cost for the misdemeanor. And obviously, you're not to work in any capacity where you're in charge of any finances or payroll or be in charge of another person's financials, period. And outside of your own. Anything else, Ms. McClure
No, Your Honor.
and Mr. Amadeo?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
All right, so Ms. Moran, we are going to mail to you 3 copies of your notice of right to appellate review, along with a self-addressed stamped envelope. I need you to initial and date 1 copy where it's marked, fold it up, put it back in the self-addressed stamped envelope, and return it to the court via U.S. Postal Service. You can also drop it off next Tuesday. And then if you wish to appeal this sentence, you would fill out the information on the form and mail it to the address listed on the form within 42 days. And report next Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. to the probation department. All right, Ms. Moran?
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Actually,
welcome.
Judge, I'm gonna have her report on Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. just because Monday is a holiday. We won't have time to get her paperwork done before that.
Okay, so Wednesday morning at 8 a.m., Ms. Moran.
Okay,
All right, very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Judge.
thank you.
And the one thing that really struck me today, because we've seen it so many times, and we talked about it recently on Sidebar. I don't know if it was last night or the previous time, but in her court, in Anzalone's court, the lady does $46,000 worth of thievery and still manages to walk away on a probation. I don't know what it is about financial crimes, but it seems to not be punished at all by prison time in so many of these jurisdictions. And that's 2 or 3 of them now that we've seen out of Anzalone's court where these people are getting probation. Now, I suppose you could make the argument, and probably rightfully so, that if they're in jail or in prison, how are they ever going to make the restitution? Where if they're out and they're working, you can claw back some of that money. And I suppose there's a case to be made for that. But in the same respect, if you're interested in doing thievery, there's this risk versus reward analysis that goes on in your head, I imagine. And if you're seeing cases in your area where it's essentially a slap on the wrist if you're caught, I have to believe that skews the risk versus reward. So I'm very torn on this because I can understand where it's probably better for the victim if the person is not put into jail for an extended period of time, because it's not like the government's going to backfill that money for them and make them whole again. It's going to have to come from that defendant and them putting in the work to pay back. Sadly, as Judge Stevens has pointed out in some of the cases that have been in front of him, they pay it back with 0 interest. So, as inflation continues to happen, that money that you're out is just becoming less and less useful to you. So there is a harm that never gets paid back, regardless of the situation. But yeah, I struggle with that one. What's better? Is it better to put them in jail or to leave them out so that they can start to make restitution? That's a tough one for me because there ought to be some better punishment. But I don't know. So if you want to talk about any of those things, feel free to hop on in here. Hey, thanks for watching this clip from TCF Live. If you enjoyed it, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe if you haven't already. And you can join us weekdays live, 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, right here on this channel.